Hey everyone, Happy New Year! We hope your application for studies at Lund University is going well. A quick note that during the discussion in this pod, the application dates for the second admission round are stated incorrectly. If you are eligible to apply in the second admission round, you have until 20th of June to submit supporting documentation, or 5th of July if you're completing your upper secondary studies in an EU or EEA country other than Sweden, or in Switzerland, or an IB/EB program. We do, of course, apologize for any inconvenience caused. In any case, the main admission round is the first admission round, and international applicants should try and apply during this round if possible. All of these dates discussing the first admission round are stated correctly in this episode. I won't go into any further detail now, but of course, please double check all application dates in the University Admissions in Sweden website before making your application. Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you'll hear from current students, alumni, teachers, and many more special guests as we explore what it's really like to live and study at Lund University. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer at the International Office of Lund University. All right, welcome to 2024, everyone. It's a fantastic start to a new year, and the application deadlines are fast approaching. So today's episode will be a Q&A, a final application Q&A to help you get through those last stages of your application. And with me, we have a very familiar and very special guest. Welcome, Elliott.
Thanks, Tim. I'm happy to be on.
Nice. Usually, we're both hosts. So today we can kind of co-host the episode, I guess.
That would be great, Tim.
Exactly. Yeah. And the format we kind of figured out today was a Q&A between ourselves.
Right.
So you can take the questions and I can provide some answers. But seeing as you are also an expert on the application process, you can chime in as well.
Well, thank you, Tim. We both have gone through the process ourselves as being, I'm currently in my master's, and you did your master's here at Lund. And so studying in Sweden is something that we're both well acquainted with. These deadlines can be a little bit tricky, and the application rounds can be kind of difficult to sort out. But I think in this Q&A, we'll be able to kind of, make the distinction between the different deadlines and what you need to know.
Perfect. And I guess we should also remind everyone that all the information you need is available on the Lund University website and the University Admissions website. So this is an extra helpful episode, but you should always check in detail the information on the program page, University Admissions, and also all the information we've emailed out to applicants and that you've seen in our very helpful webinars as well. So we do actually provide quite a lot of help to our applicants.
We do. And being on the other side of that help, I can tell you for sure, it's been really, really great. And now to see what we do in this office is also really fun. So I'm excited that we produce all this content for all these people.
Exactly.
So should I jump right in with the first question?
Yeah, exactly. Go for it.
So there are a couple different deadlines, Tim. Can you tell me what the different deadlines are that students need to be aware of with their application?
Yes, great question. And this is always a little bit confusing for our applicants. So remember, these deadlines are established by University Admissions in Sweden, the National Applications Portal, not Lund University. And you have the first deadline on the 15th of January and the second on the 1st of February. So the deadline on the 15th of January is the deadline to select your programs. You have to select your programs by the 15th of January. This is the final deadline for you to do so. So when you're applying for a master's program, you can have a first choice and 3 backups. And when you're applying for a bachelor's program, you can have a first choice and 7 backups, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And you need to remember that you're only applying for one program, and then those other programs are backups. So if you get into your first choice, if you get admitted, then all those other applications are removed. It's not like you get accepted into multiple programs.
Right.
This comes up every year.
Yes.
So later down the line, when we get our applicants who are admitted, we, for example, might get a student who might say, I put the Global Studies Masters as my first choice, but I put the Development Studies Masters as my second choice. I got into my first choice, but now I want to get into
my second choice. And unfortunately, you can't.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So ranking your choices is something that a term we throw around a lot. But yeah, the rank, it seems, is the 15th, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then the 1st of February, what is the 1st of February?
All right, and so the 1st of February deadline is the document deadline, and if you're a non-EU EEA citizen, it's the deadline to pay the application fee as well to university admissions. So you need to have all your documents submitted correctly to university admissions by that deadline. And then also the application fee has to be received by that deadline as well. If you are an EU or EEA citizen, you need to have your EU or EEA documentation uploaded into your university admissions portal by the 1st of February.
That could be a passport. It could be a national identity card, some sort of, proof that you are an EU citizen if you want to remove that application fee, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's the benefits of being from the European Union.
Right.
And again, remember the application fee is paid to university admissions in Sweden, not Lund University.
Are the deadlines flexible? So if I'm a student and maybe I can write an email and I can see if I can get in a different deadline or something. Is that possible? Just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, great question, Ale. We get it every year, and the answer is no. So these deadlines, as I've said, are made by university admissions, not Lund University. They are not flexible at all. They cannot be bent at all in any way. So you need to select your programs by the 15th of January. You need to have your documents uploaded by the 1st of February and sort out the application fee or your EU documentation by then. What I also recommend to all our applicants is that you don't need to leave your application to the last minute. You can get everything uploaded and select your programs early on in the process to avoid any stress.
You can do it now. I mean, when this podcast comes out, but you could also do it in at any other time. Before the deadlines.
Exactly. I'm imagining you were the kind of student who had everything uploaded nice and early.
Well, I did, Tim. You're right to assume that. In October, I went in there and I made my first application for my graduate studies here in Sweden. But actually, it turns out that I changed my mind about the programs that I wanted to be in.
Okay.
So I had to cancel my first application, and I went in and I made a new application, and I ranked my programs in a different ranking so that I got into the program that I'm in now. So if students are out there thinking, how important is the ranking, the choices, decision? The answer is really, it's super important, because that first program that you put, hopefully it's a program at Lund University, we would hope, if you're listening to our podcast, you will get into that program if you get selected, if you're qualified. But the other ones, like you said earlier, Tim, get kind of wiped out. Exactly. So if I'm looking at the different applications on the university admissions page, if I'm putting my student hat on, there's this thing called the second and the Swedish application round. What is that, Tim? I mean, should I be applying to that as well as the international application round?
Perfect. Really glad you asked. So we encourage all our international applicants to apply in the main international application round, which we've already been talking about, which, as everybody already knows, opens in mid-October. And then you have your application deadline on the 15th of January for your programs and 1st of February for the application fee or your EU documentation. Those are the dates that everybody needs to remember. There is a second application round. The second application round is technically for Swedish students only. So if you're applying, you can only apply in this round if you're Swedish, or if you're an EU student who's applying to a bachelor's program, because this will allow you to complete your upper secondary school studies and have the documentation needed in order to begin studies in the following autumn. If you apply on the Swedish application round, you don't use universityadmissions.se, you use antagning.se, because that's the Swedish version of the site. And this round opens on the 15th of March, and the application deadline to choose your programs is the 15th of April, and then the document deadline is the 2nd of May. However, there is a caveat here,
Right.
so that if you're an EU or EEA citizen or from Switzerland or studying an IB or EB program, you have until the 5th of July to submit your documents. So basically, if you are an EU citizen or EEA citizen studying at upper secondary school level, you can apply in the second round. Otherwise, you need to go for the first round.
And this secondary round, it's not recommended for international students to apply because what's the reason why?
Exactly.
We shouldn't be applying to that. If I'm, like, let's say I'm from America, I'm applying for a bachelor's study in development studies. Why should I apply in the international round versus the Swedish round?
Because if you are a non-EU EEA citizen, you're going to need a residence permit to live in Sweden. So you need to get admitted in the first round to allow yourself time to make that application and for the Swedish Migration Agency to process your migration application and approve it, of course. Well, hopefully.
Right.
But because you have to remember that the Swedish Migration Agency is a separate agency, a separate government agency to Lund University. So once you're admitted to Lund University, then you can go on ahead and apply for your residence permit. Again, remember, when you're admitted to studies, we're going to give you all of this information via email and in our webinars as well.
Right. Well, that's great. So maybe we should dig a little deeper into the 15th of January deadline and then the 1st of February deadline and kind of explore the differences between the two of those in more depth here. So we talked a little bit earlier about the 15th of January being the deadline to rank your programs in order of what you want. Do you have any tips on selecting or ranking program choices?
Well, I think, Elliott, you might just have as many tips as I do here because this really comes down to what you want to study and how you see your future as well. So the main thing to remember, as we've already said, you put your first choice and then you have backups.
Right.
You're not selecting multiple choices here.
Right.
So you really, really need to think about what you want to study. And at Lund University, we are Sweden's highest ranked comprehensive university.
That's right.
We have over 140 English taught international degree programs.
That's right.
So you really need to spend some time looking through our programs. You can browse on our website a list of full programs. You can browse by subject area. Maybe your entry point to a program is actually through an excellent researcher or a recommendation. So that's how you might get to the program. But you really, really need to think about what you want your first choice to be. So you mentioned that you changed your choices.
I did. I originally was applying to the Environmental Management and Policy master's program as my first choice.
Okay.
And then I realized, I might not be as qualified as I thought for that program. No, that's the truth. That's the honest truth. And so in talking with the professors that were going to write my letters of recommendation, one of the professors here that studies economic sociology, Johan Sandberg, he said it might be good to look at other programs that might better fit your interests and also your expertise, coming from my bachelor's in development studies. And so I started looking at other programs at the university, and one that stuck out was sociology of law. It's a master's program, 2-year master's program in sociology of law. So in looking at my existing application that I had made just in October, after the start of the opening of admissions, I made that first application. And then I thought, you know what? It's time to reconsider. It's time to think about my experience, my expertise, and also what I'm really interested in. And I made the switch and I changed my application to rank sociology of law as the first program, so that when I got an admissions offer, that it would go to my first choice rather than to other choices that I had. So of course, when you're selecting programs, I selected 4 programs at the university, all of which I had interest in. But I had to kind of choose which one was my favorite, because I think about it like you only get one ticket, So take your ticket wisely, and you get the ticket for the one that you really want. So don't think that you can get all of the the programs that you applied to and get admissions to every one of them and kind of negotiate them after the deadline, your ranking is kind of a self-negotiation. You have to kind of think, okay, this is my favorite.
I like the way you describe that.
Thank you.
There's a lot of information out there. I mean, if you're juggling between a couple of programs, go to the faculty or department webpage, take a look at the research that the professors on that program are doing, and decide what suits your interests and the most. There's so many resources out there. You can read books, you can read articles from researchers. The sky is the limit, really.
There's also a super useful tool for some of the programs here at the university called Unibuddy that we have. We offer that. Unibuddy allows you to chat to current students in that program. They're super responsive. And so if you're a prospectus student and you're looking at, kind of getting involved in a program, you can always write somebody who's studying that and say, what's the workload? Do you like what you're studying? Is it more like this? Is it more like that? Because when you read those course pages, they give one perspective, but the student testimonials that are included on there have another perspective, and Unibuddy has another perspective. So from the advice from us, I think, would be to our listeners, take in all that information when you're ranking your choices. But by the 15th of January, you have to have them ranked, right?
Bringing it back to the 15th of January.
15th of January, you have to have them ranked, and you cannot change them.
Exactly.
Right?
So we've already said you can't change. There's a slight, another little loophole down the line which you can come to, and that's if you get put on the reserve list for your first choice, and you get admitted to your second, then at a later date, if someone drops out or enough people drop out, you might better go back into your first choice. That's the only, and that can happen for your second and third, for example.
But that's like playing the lottery. You never know if that's possible. There might be a full class or all those things. So Tim, tell me more about the second deadline for our international students. February 1st, it's seared into my memory in particular. And I remember going to my upper secondary school counselor and saying, please send an email with all of my documents to university admissions before the 1st of February. So what is that 1st of February deadline, and why do we treat it as sacrosanct?
Well, you put it well, Elliott. So the 1st of February deadline is, as we've already said, the document deadline and the deadline to pay your application fee or prove your exemption. So those are the two things that you have to get done by then. My piece of advice for everyone out there who's listening to this now is just get all this done well in advance. Do not wait until the last few days of January. Just get all your documents sorted as early as you can. And make sure you prove your exemption or pay the application fee as early as you can. So main piece of advice here, don't wait till the last minute. Get it done early.
Tim, how do I know what documents I should upload? What should I do with regard to that? And how should I send in my documents?
Double barrel question.
That's a two for one.
So we're not going to go through every single document that you need on the pod right now. But as we've already said on the program webpage, you can find exactly what is required for your application. So in most cases, that's going to be your transcript, your diploma officially issued and uploaded. It's going to be your ID, and in most cases, it's going to be some kind of program-specific document as well. But again, this can vary depending on the program that you apply for. Some programs require a statement of purpose. Our architecture program, for example, requires you to upload a portfolio. And remember, there can be slight differences in how these needed to be submitted or uploaded. So again, check on the program pages. And here's another very important piece of information, Elliott, because you mentioned that you needed your home university to post your official transcript to university admissions, but that is a country-specific requirement.
Country-specific.
Exactly. So you need to check the country-specific requirements on the university admissions page as well, because for some applicants, most documents can be uploaded through the university admissions portal, but for some students from some countries, there are special requirements. For example, one small example of that is that U.S. students need their transcript to be sent from their home university directly.
From the official.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a lot of different requirements about how documents should be issued and also translated. So we don't want to dig into all of those little details on this pod. The main thing that we're going to say is that you need to check that yourself on university admissions, and you need to make sure that your documents are arriving to university admissions by the 1st of February.
That's right. Yeah, I would recommend students to kind of do what I have done when I was applying, which was open up your browser and put the tabs up on there and put the country specific on one tab from university admissions, put the program page on another tab, put your application on another tab, and just start to kind of sort your documents and what you need to do and plan out your timelines before the deadlines that are occurring. Because when that February 1st deadline happens, what are fates sealed? I mean, can we go and submit our documents after? I mean, what happens? Can I go in and submit them later? Or they got, the mail, it's going to be later. What happens?
Well, as we've stated already, those deadlines are pretty fixed. So you need to get onto things early. And again, it's university admissions in Sweden. So welcome to Sweden, where we have a national application portal where all applications are treated equally. And we can't really make flexible adjustments here at our own admissions office.
Okay, so there's also this thing that we have that some people have to submit depending on their country requirements and their educational background, which is English proficiency. What should we know about English proficiency? How does that impact people's applications? Do we submit test scores? What's the deal?
Perfect question, Elliott. So that was actually the one other piece of documentation which I didn't mention earlier when I said you need to upload documentation. But all applicants need to prove their English proficiency. It doesn't matter if they're like you and me. We come from native English-speaking countries. Or it doesn't matter where you come from. You need to prove your English proficiency. And there's a few ways you can do that. Again, they're all listed on university admissions. But there's three main ways. The first way is that you studied previously in an English-speaking country, in which case you just need to upload your official transcripts to prove this. Or if you studied 1 year full-time studies in an English-speaking country or EU country, again, you can get an officially issued letter or an official transcript to prove this. And the third and final option is to take an officially approved English test. So what you need to remember about if you need to take an English test is that you need to have this test booked early on. So if you're listening to the pod now,
it's probably too late.
And there's a couple of weeks to go until you need to upload, and you still need to book an English test. And unfortunately, it's going to be too late in this application room. For everyone else that's been prepared, you need to have booked, for example, an IELTS or TOEFL test early on, and then that it can be uploaded to university admissions as well. So just remember, everyone has to prove their English proficiency.
Tim, I get a lot of questions in the email inbox here at IMR, the International Marketing Recruitment Office, about I have some extra documents. I might have done an internship. I have a letter of recommendation that's not required for my program. I've got some supplemental information, some auxiliary information. And should I put that with my application? Will it make my application better by adding documents that are not requested? What's your advice?
We have a lot of programs, is my advice, and the requirements vary a lot. And so the main thing with any documents that you're uploading is always check what's required by the program. But you're asking about extra non-required documents. In that case, it's not necessary to upload additional reference letters or additional qualifications that you may have. But then again, you need to think strategically about the word required here. So if there is, for example, a CV component to your application and you want to really put your best foot forward, which you need to, then you should go ahead and weave those into the CV component. For example, if there's a statement of purpose, how much can you pack into that statement of purpose? But to answer your question directly, you don't need to go uploading 50 extra documents proving that you took this course and this course if it's not required as part of meeting the entry requirements or part of the selection criteria consideration.
And there's also something that I didn't know until I started working here at the university, but there's kind of two layers of people that look at your documentation and the things that you submit. For the master's programs, which is very different than the bachelor's programs and the people that are submitting information for bachelor's programs. When I was applying for my bachelor here at Lund, I was a bit confused when they only asked for transcripts, my proof of English proficiency, and an application fee with the ranking of the programs, things like that. I thought, where's the SAT? Where's the letter of motivation? Where's the Nobel Prize that I had won in high school? All these things, right? I think that there's something about that which was a bit confusing. But the truth is, from what I hear from you, Tim, and from the program websites, things like that, if you're applying to a bachelor's program, just submit what they are asking, and your application will be made. But when it comes to master's programs, those applicants, they might have to submit some extra documents. And they might have to submit some CVs and some letters of motivation, or even some letters of recommendation from professors and things like that.
For example, the Environmental Management and Policy Program.
That's right.
And then again, they have to be submitted in a specific way. So
and they have their own criteria for that. Yeah.
Again, so as with everything in this pod, remember, check the program webpage.
Check the program webpage. And then also, just know that there's going to be somebody at the university admissions that's going to be checking that you have the right documents. But then ultimately those decisions sometimes get made, if I'm correct, by the programs themselves, and they look at the documents and they read the different letters of motivation, things like that. So when you're thinking about writing, who are you writing to? I mean, this is not specifically what we're talking about in the pod, but I think it's always good to remember your audience for those documents. Don't overwhelm the admissions staff at university admissions. Submit what they ask. Don't go over and don't go under.
Exactly. Perfect. And you bring up a good point about how applications are actually assessed as well, which we can get onto in a minute as well. But there was just a few other quick points that I can just whiz through, maybe super quickly.
Go for it.
People often ask us about translations for documents and their specific requirements for those. Check on university admissions under the country-specific requirements. Some, for example, Danish documents can be uploaded, but most other countries need to be translated. But check that. Naming documents, if you have a statement of purpose that doesn't require a specific template, then of course put your name and the name of the program and the title on there.
Put your surname and your first name and
And everyone sometimes gets a bit, when they're uploading documents, it can be a little bit of a overwhelming experience because you feel like you're putting them up there onto university admissions and then they're gone. So just remember, on the staff side and on the evaluation side, they can see everything in your portal together. But of course, name them clearly.
One thing on that, when you submit something to the portal, by law, it never goes away.
Exactly. Next question that we had here.
So be careful. Be careful what you submit.
Exactly. So in accordance with Swedish law, as you said, you can never remove a document that you have uploaded from university admissions, and
it becomes public record if I remember correctly. However, semi-public.
Exactly. So this doesn't need to be a problem. Just pay careful attention to the documents that you're uploading. Double, triple, quadruple check them. And if you do make a mistake, that's fine. You can just go ahead and upload the corrected document, and you can send an email to university admissions or to Lund University, and this is going to be okay.
I have a piece of advice for that, which is a bit maybe technical. but I recommend for people to make a submission before the submission. Do it with a folder in your computer that says University Admissions Submissions, and put all the documents that you will submit in that one folder, check them, and then submit those that are clearly in the folder, so you submit the right ones. So that you can see where they're at, and then when you submit them, they're the right ones to submit.
Brilliant advice, Elliott. That's why we have you here on the pod.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
And then the final question that we sort of wanted to cover quickly about documents is people who are applying again, because we know Lund University is a competitive university to receive admission to. We have students that are here that didn't get accepted in 1 year, and then they made an application, they got in the next year.
That's
so
right.
Again, in accordance with Swedish law, you can only have one university admissions account. You just go ahead and use that same account to make your second application.
Right.
If your general documents are still relevant, your English proficiency, your diploma, your transcript, your ID, if they're all still up to date,
right, you
don't need to upload them again. But if there's program-specific requirements, you will, of course, need to submit your program-specific documents again.
And I just want to remind our listeners again to sear it in your brains. 15th of January, ranking the programs and making sure that that's all locked in. And then February 1st, documents, final application, right?
Exactly. And application fee for EU and EEA citizenship.
Right.
Every year also we get a lot of emails from our EU applicants saying, I've uploaded my EU documentation, but in my portal, I can still see that there's still an annoying little thing sitting in there that says that I have to pay an application fee.
Right.
Remember, Sweden is one of the world's premier education destinations. So all Swedish universities are getting a huge amount of applications.
Tons.
And even the AI and everything that's being used, it means that your EU EEA documentation doesn't get checked instantly when you upload it.
Right.
As long as it's there, it's going to be checked before the 1st of February and you won't have to pay an application fee.
That's right.
And shall we move on now to what you kind of mentioned earlier, the assessment period?
That's right. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So I've submitted, I'm going to take my student hat and put it back on. I've submitted my application. Now what, Tim? Now what?
Now it's time to sit on the sofa and take a break or go and relax for a month or so, because now...
Pick up a new hobby or something. I mean, you're really going to have to take time.
Or just sit back and chat with our uni buddies.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. But
listen to our pod.
Check out our social media. Read our research. Watch our YouTube channel. There's a lot to keep you occupied, but you can also do non-Lund University related things.
Of course. Take a walk or something.
While or like me, I was actually in Nepal when my application was being assessed. So I was walking in the Himalayas. So it kept my mind off things.
Nice.
But your application's going to get assessed. So you already mentioned this, Elliott, a little bit. So for bachelors, none of us here are admissions officers.
We not.
We can't go into the details, but we can give you a quick summary of how it works.
Right.
For bachelor's applications, university admissions evaluates your application and gives you a merit score.
Strictly on merit.
And they're experts that they conduct that process, and then they provide a list to the programs. When you're remember, we only have 10 international bachelor's programs. When you're applying to our master's programs, university admissions evaluates that you meet the general entry requirements, that you're eligible. If you're eligible, then your application will then get moved on to the program staff who are experts in that specific area, and then they will evaluate you based on the selection criteria. So they will get a list of all the eligible candidates, and they would choose the most highly qualified and the most suitable to be selected to come onto the program. Remember, if you're eligible but you don't get selected, you can get put on reserve, which can be a slightly tedious process. So because you never really know how many other people are going to not accept their place.
Right.
But again, you get information communicated to you about this when it happens. And of course, the higher up the reserve list you are, the higher chance you have of being admitted. And you also need to remember that there is going to be, if you're a non-EU EEA citizen who needs to apply for a migration permit, there's going to be a residency permit in Sweden. There's going to be basically a cutoff point where if you're not accepted on reserve in time, then the time to apply for and receive your residence permit for studies in Sweden will have passed. But again, these are all things, as we've said before, we are famous for our professional communication.
Send us an email. I mean, if you're wondering about some of these things, if you listen to some of the deadlines in this podcast and you're like, what's going on? Send us an email. A bunch of colleagues would be happy to answer those kind of more specific questions. Now, Tim, you said something about accepting your place. Now, what does that mean? So when we get an offer from the university, when we get a admissions offer, what do we have to do? Because there's something that we have to do, right?
Great question, Elliott. So the first thing that we haven't actually mentioned yet is that admission results, the big day for master's applicants is the 21st of March, 2024. And for bachelor's applicants, it's the 11th of April, 2024. You can log into your university admissions account on that day, Swedish time, and hopefully you're going to see a green light in your university admissions account, which says admitted or conditionally admitted. And then you're going to receive information from Lund University with all the next steps you need to take. So I think the question that you asked about how do you accept your place and what happens is the topic of another podcast.
That sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. And the topic of many emails and webinars, recorded sessions. So
there will be information about that later. And
the main thing that everyone needs to remember is that we are here to help you along every step of the way. We will send all our admitted students detailed and concise information about the steps they need to take. There'll be webinars. For some students, there'll be personal visits from our staff, and we'll guide you through that whole process. We have a fantastic app called Going, which our admitted students can use to chat with other admitted students. I mean, it's just the beginning of your new awesome life at Lund University. But let's talk about what happens when you get admitted another time.
Sounds good, Tim.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming in today, and Elliott, and talking about this application process. And for everyone out there, we wish you the best of luck.
Best of luck. Yeah.
Stay focused. Remember, make your checklist. As Elliott said, check everything before you upload it.
Oh, yeah. And take our advice with a grain of salt and do what's best for you. Thank you, Tim, and Happy New Year to you. And look forward to being on another pod with you.
Thanks, Elliott. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and you can chat with current students on UniBuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.